Hey everybody, Brandon McCaskill here with Momentum Canada. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time I go live or upload a new video. All right, so with that said, let's get right into today's video. Tonight, I actually sat down with Tom Stoukas. He is the owner of Pizza World here in Sarnia, Ontario. It's on the corner of Mitten and George Street. And man, they have great pizza. Probably one of my favorites. There's a lot of pizza joints here in Sarnia, and this is definitely in my top 5 for sure. You got to check them out. But I sat down with Tom Stoukas, and I got a download of his experience navigating through the pandemic as a business owner. And he was basically intimidated by public health to stay closed during some of the portions of the lockdowns and to enforce a vaccine passport for customers to come in, which he refused. So this is going to be an exciting interview. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what you thought about the video in the comments below and share this video with your friends if you don't mind. Appreciate it. Enjoy the video. So Tom, thanks for sitting down with me. You are the owner of Pizza World here in Sarnia, Ontario, on the corner of Mitten and George. And so why don't you just tell us kind of the history of Pizza World, where it all began with you and to where you are today. How did that all start for you?
Yeah, I'm actually helping my dad out. He had this place and he didn't have staff, or he had to shut her down for a bit, and it was open. It wasn't open, so I ended up saying, I'll help you out, reopen it, and then cleaned it up, gave it a little bit of a 80s pizzeria feel, and then we opened her up just because I didn't have a restaurant anymore, so it was something for him to get open instead of sitting empty.
Awesome. So obviously the pandemic came around 2020, and we all began hearing the encouragement to lock down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So I kind of want to go back to that period of time. What was Tom Stoukas thinking? Like, where was your perspective? Where were you at in terms of how you viewed what was going on, and even as a businessman, and even in your personal life, where were you at that time?
All right, so everything was going great for us. We just opened 3 months earlier. So the March was the lockdowns, but we opened 3 months earlier. I was so busy. The reason I opened there is because I knew there was a need. There was a desire. The town wanted something like that. So I knew, I did my research, I knew it was going to be successful. We were busy, and we were like, I couldn't believe how, I wanted to do a long-term future in Petrolia, be a part of the community, because it's like after the church and the hockey arena, the diner is one of the places a lot of people see each other.
Right.
So I was really happy to be a part of that. And then the headlines started with the corona, and in fact we started feeling the effects before the official lockdown. So the official lockdown was March 15th, but because of the headlines, the fear mongering, we saw a really big drop in business 2 weeks before the official lockdowns. It was almost like we were already locked down.
Right.
They just made it official, right? Because I saw many times empty dining room for no reason other than the headlines.
Right.
And then they called the emergency. I went home for 8 days. I closed because I didn't know what was going on, right? Nobody did. Their fear-mongering worked, even a little bit on me. But I wasn't scared. I was just like, I'm going to go home, chill out for a week. And then after a week, I was getting bored, so I went and we did takeout.
Yeah.
And it was slow, but at first, but then it started picking up. But the takeout, people think, okay, the restaurant does takeout, they're fine. No, takeout's not very good. If you're set up as a full service restaurant, takeout doesn't pay the bills. If you're a little hole in the wall shop and you're doing takeout, great. But if you're a full restaurant, you got property taxes, you got snow removal, you got a lot of things. You're paying for air conditioning or heating on a building that's not getting used. So the takeout was like a Band-Aid, and then the government money helped, and they gave us this impression that this is temporary. So
Right.
we're just going to take a little bit breather, and then we're going to be back to business. But then the months kept going, and by the summer, they're like finally starting to let us open.
Right.
Barely. So many rules too, like ridiculous rules. I was harassed constantly for these new rules.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask you about. But it seems like what you're saying is like in the very beginning, you were kind of like every average Canadian that just wanted to do their part, saying, "Yeah, let's."
I was very optimistic.
Right.
I was very optimistic. That's the best word to describe me. We had the business. We had very little debt when we started the business.
Yeah.
Luckily, and it was busy right away, so that helped. And I just wanted to be that normal guy. I've been around the world. I just tried to change the world, all that. I just wanted to chill out and relax. And then it didn't, everything changed, obviously. But I was very optimistic until the lockdown. After that, it was like a slow descent into pessimism because I was like, totally changed overnight. We went from a gold mine to like a dry oil well, basically, you know, like overnight, you know.
Right.
And because we were a new business, we didn't have years and years to kind of pad up our rainy day reserves or we were still paying for signage, and we had some unexpected expenses on the canopy and all that. So, you know, it happens, but you need to be busy the first 2-3 years to kind of get your footing. So a lot of the places were open 5, 10, 15, 20 years, so they can absorb it. If you're a new business, it's really difficult.
That makes sense.
Really difficult. Yeah. So again, I didn't think it was going to be that long. I thought, okay, 1 month.
Just like bite the bullet type of thing.
But it got worse.
But it got worse, right? And that seemed to be a lot of, especially small businesses, concern where it was just, it seemed they kept reaching and kept reaching and it kept reaching.
It's like they're stringing us along.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're almost there. And they strung everybody along. But we didn't reinvest in the business. We put a patio in.
Right.
We put like a pizza oven. We put another fryer. It costs money too. I couldn't believe how much just to install it is thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, in the long term, it'll be worth it.
Right.
Even when the lockdown ended, we could still use the patio.
Yeah.
But they kept going. I guess our clientele wasn't really into patio dining. You know, they like to sit inside in the air conditioning, a lot of older people. So maybe I miscalculated. Maybe I shouldn't have spent on the patio. But you didn't know what they're going to do with your dining room, right?
Yeah.
Dining room's empty. And so, I mean, we were doing stuff to try and stay, but on the assumption that, okay, this is going to end soon.
Right.
And then the first lockdown ended, and then they do the second lockdown Christmas.
Yeah.
So whatever momentum we had going we actually had momentum after the first lockdown, ended around midsummer. And then momentum into the Christmas season, and then they did that other thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Like a second lockdown.
Because cases spiked, so they got.
Yeah, and they wanted people vaccinated. Or no, there was no vaccine then. Okay.
Yeah, so that the vaccine came out.
That year, 2020, end of 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, the momentum we were building to end of 2020 was gone.
Right.
The second lockdown. So I was like, by then I was starting to get like, when's this going to end? It's like, we had the government money. That's the only thing that kept us open.
Right.
And I had that government money sitting in the bank account, and it kept going down because I paid rent, paid the food supplier, paid the lots of different little, like my dishwasher rental, just my garbage, my snow. Those guys were all the time there, you know, or the grass cutting. That stuff doesn't change, but your revenue, my revenue went down almost 50%. Wow. I probably lost around, in the whole duration, from the lockdown to me finally closing, I probably lost at least $250,000 in sales. That would have solved all my problems.
Right.
But whatever, I'm not worried about the money.
Well, the next question I want to ask is, like, so Ontario Public Health paid you a visit during this time, right?
They were bugging me all the time. Did
they actually come in the doors?
Well, they would call me or come there.
Yeah.
And the first thing they say is someone complained.
Right.
Someone complained this is before the vaccine passport. The vaccine passport was the whole new level.
Right.
But this is before. And then, so somebody says you weren't wearing a mask while cooking, or someone says your server wasn't wearing a mask, or the customers weren't, like we weren't enforcing the mask.
Right.
And we were supposed to do the personal information too. I didn't even want to do that either. So I left a notebook out. Like, if you want to put your name in, go ahead. I'm not going to do it.
Sign my guest book. Yeah.
Right. So they were harassing me.
Right.
And I said, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm the only one in the kitchen, right? So,
yeah.
And then, so basically a little harassment here and there. But
yeah.
On top of that, where it hurt most was I'm broke, I'm laying off staff, and you're harassing me still.
Right.
It's like, what are you trying to do to me?
Yeah.
Mentally, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
I think it took a toll on all the businesses. It's just they had to put a brave face. What can you do?
Yeah. You mentioned fear-mongering. That fear-mongering definitely peeled the humanity out of so many people, especially people in power. And it's heartbreaking to hear that. And
yeah. Well, we go back to my thing about optimism. I was optimistic. Yeah. Like Doug Ford. I was like, Bob Bailey would come in. Bob Bailey, our MPP. He would come into the restaurant all the time. He goes to all the restaurants. Yeah. Whatever. Good for him. I had a lot of regulars like Bob who disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
I had like a lot of seniors would come once, sometimes twice every day. And then after this Corona business, didn't see him again.
Interesting.
Adds up. Anyway, Bob would give me the old, we're all for small business. But when things started getting prickly, like the only reason he would show his face is because they were giving out 40 grand to the businesses.
Right.
Okay, fine. But when things got more prickly, he hid. Yeah. Like I felt like when Bob would come in, I'd say, before the thing, I would say, hey, you got to bring Doug Ford here. We're going to have we'll give him breakfast. And, that was part of that.
Yeah.
Optimist after the Liberals in Ontario for all those years. I was like, this is before. Now, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
But when the stuff got really uncomfortable and like the Vax Pass and all that, he was nowhere to be found. I tried calling him, tried acting like a civil person, tried calling him, email, nothing. He couldn't even come in person. I still wouldn't like him for his decisions, but at least I would respect him a little more. But yeah. I feel between the mayor, the local mayors, like I know the mayor of Petrolia, I thought he was a nice guy. I'm sure he is, but just everybody, I felt abandoned. It's like I'm the easiest one to pick on in this town, so they all abandoned me, right?
Nobody was.
And at the time, this is before really the masses started like getting sick of all this. It was really taboo to go against let's say you open your dining room a lot, it was like people would be like murder, right? So we didn't do it because we knew it would be very negative. So we're going to ride it out.
Right.
That's what we're doing. But it was like fear. It's like I didn't agree with the lockdowns. By the second lockdown, I was like, no way. And but it was that fear that it was such a strong mob mentality against breaking the rules that even I said, okay, if I go do it, it's going to be all the way. You got to do it. Either you can't do it halfway. If you're going to break the rules, you got to expect. At that time, you would have been shut down right away. I think.
Right.
Like look at that guy in Toronto during the second lockdown, I believe. He had 100 cops around. He opened his barbecue place in Toronto. He had 100 cops around. They arrested him.
Right.
Did the perp walk out. That's what would have happened.
Yeah.
Right. So it was intense.
Yeah.
We were under a lot of pressure to not break the rules.
Yeah.
Just shut up and you're doing your takeout. You're fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't fine though.
So for you, did you ever, like, whether at the beginning or even now, like, did you ever come at this from a charter violation perspective, or was it always like, this didn't make sense, I'm not doing this? Like,
it was weird because it's kind of like they slid us into it.
Right.
So when it started, it was like 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it kept going, and then they kept doing like all these like death numbers to scare us. So you kind of slid into it, and you knew it was a charter right violation. You knew it was government overreach, but the way they did it is that it's not going to last. It's going to end soon.
Right.
And it was like a tease. That was their strategy. It's like, okay, this is the last month. Yeah. So, and then they said, oh, if a certain amount get vaxxed, it's over. And a certain amount, went from 70 to 80 to 90.
Right.
So I think they were good at that. It's kind of like Jordan Peterson. I said, give them an inch.
Yeah.
If you let them have an inch, they'll keep getting an inch until we realize, they got a mile, So they were good at that. They did a good job putting us like under, just kind of keeping us guessing.
Right.
I didn't think if you ask me, if I wish I had a crystal ball, because if I knew they were going to pull that, I would have took all the government money and cashed out and say, see you later.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a crystal ball. I thought everything was going to settle down.
Right.
Even right up until the vax pass, I was like, okay, now we're going to get back into the game here.
Right.
Because the way Doug Ford unequivocally said, I remember it was August of 2000, I'm trying to get my years straight, 2020, I believe, because we had the election.
Right.
And this is when they were starting to ban people from flying. I hope the year's right. I'm pretty sure the year is right. Anyway, and Doug Ford was saying no because the vaccine passport for me was the final thing. Like, I'm horrified. When I was reading about vaccine passports in Europe and Australia, I was horrified. I was like, who in their right mind would think that's a good idea? Yeah. And when Doug Ford said in August, no way, we're not doing it. It's a no-go. And I was like, there you go. I felt really good about it. Yeah. And I said, okay, maybe summer's over. We're going to get into Christmas season. Maybe we can, if this nonsense ends, we can get back on track. Wasn't broke yet. Things seemed to be settling down. Yeah. And then I couldn't help but notice the news articles after he said that every day. We need a vaccine passport. The media would say this. Nobody else was saying it, just them. Yeah. And then a month later, they do the vaccine passport in Ontario. And I was like, that was it. If I wasn't off it, that was the final straw. Right. Like, I was dangling. Yeah. And then that was it. They had no legitimacy after that. Because he said a month before, no way. Like, how do you go from one position to the other in a month? Like, it makes no sense. And I called Bob, wouldn't answer. Couldn't get a response. Yeah. I said to his secretary, you can't be serious about this, If he had any integrity, I know probably he doesn't agree with the vax pass, but he just did it so he wouldn't get kicked out of caucus. Like, I won't guess on his integrity, but anyway. So the vax pass
seemed to be the line in the sand for you, eh?
We were starting to say, okay, we're going to have a recovery plan, because the idea was the lockdown was over. But then they did the vax pass. So basically it was a lockdown of unvaccinated. Yeah. And I said, there's no way I'm doing it. Right. There's no way I'm doing it. I was already half broke anyway, so it was easier for me. If you were have a lot of money, if I had a lot of money and I owned that restaurant for 20 years, I probably would have just done takeout. Right. Just not get into trouble, because I could afford it. Just sit, take it easy and do takeout. But I was already broke. They already ruined my business. So I said, there's no way I'm doing this vax pass. They've done everything to me. Yeah. I'm not going to let them do this to me. And I can honestly say, I can proudly say, we didn't check in the 6 months that the vax thing was in effect. We didn't check one vax pass. So we didn't even pretend. Yeah. Some people showed it to us. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah. And I had this lady call me. She was a nice old lady, and she was talking to me on the phone about, because Petrolia is a small town, what else is there to do but talk about the happenings in Petrolia? And she's like, we love your food, but we're not going to come to eat at your restaurant because you're not doing the vaccine pass. And I said, I was nice to her. Yeah. I said, you know what? That's what I'm all about. I'm all about freedom of choice, freedom in general. So I respect your decision. But you know what she said after that? She's like, I'm gonna call my friends and tell them not to come. And I'm like, fuck off. I was very respectful. Yeah. But I don't appreciate that. Wait, you're really going after me here. Yeah. I didn't do nothing to you. If you don't want to come yourself, that's fine. Yeah. But that's the nastiness. And I was a little nasty to people, and I'm not proud of it. But it really, the vax pass did exactly what I said it would do. It was very divisive, useless, and because they did a lockdown a couple months later, which is basically saying all the problems we caused with this Vax Pass, like it was for nothing.
Right.
You divided society for nothing.
Yeah.
So we were fined for the vaccine pass, not doing it.
Yeah.
And then we were fined for the Omicron lockdown. So yeah, I went from less than 3 years, or 2 years, from a like pillar of the community, everybody's like family guy, all this, whatever, to a criminal.
Yeah.
Didn't take long.
Craziness. Yeah, and I kind of want to, you mentioning they fined you. We'll get into kind of where your status is, but can you kind of give us some examples of how the community, did you get any angry phone calls from people, people showing up yelling at you? Because I've heard those types of stories.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a negative, like phone calls.
Right.
Online, saying avoid this place.
It's easier too, right?
Not necessarily people coming in, which I think it's good. Like maybe they're heard of me, they didn't want to see me in person. I don't know, but we didn't really have. We had more. It was phone calls and a lot of complaints. Like let's say to the health board. So I was getting calls from the health board saying about the vaccine pass. Oh, we're getting complaints from people that you're not doing it. I'm like, well, who are they? It's like whatever, like that was the main kind of like harassment was the phone calls and complaints to the authorities.
Right.
Like a lot of what's the word, snitching on your neighbors attitude.
They encouraged that, didn't they?
They encouraged it.
They encouraged you to snitch on your friends and your neighbors.
So basically, I lost as a result of the vaccine and my vaccine passport and my stand on it. Because I was at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm not playing this game. Like I played it too long.
Yeah.
But I lost basically half the town for business, which is fine. I accepted that, but
right.
It's hard to run a business in a small town when you're at odds with the mayor, you're at odds with the county, you're at odds with the police. Well, the police, we were good with the police. I think they weren't very enthusiastic. And so it was like a divisive thing. Every town across Canada had the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I want that to end,
Right. But the mayor and the councillors, did you hear from them during it all?
It's funny, you hear from the councillors when you're open and busy, they're all there.
Yeah.
when you're locked down and you're fighting for your rights, no, didn't see any of them.
Right.
I was like a pariah to them because I don't know, maybe they were afraid to talk to me, or they just didn't agree with me, or they were hiding, maybe. I don't know. But I felt abandoned is the best word to feel.
That's a good word.
Because we're trying to build something here.
Yeah.
Make this town better.
Yeah.
And you running me out of town here.
Yeah. So what's your status with the fines? Do you mind sharing how much you fined?
Okay. So I think we got 3 fines for the vaccine. It's like $850 each.
Okay.
And then we got 2 fines for breaking the lockdown.
Yeah.
Which I really said I'm not going on lockdown ever again.
Yeah.
You close me. That's what. Because mentally it takes a lot sitting in there all day. I hate it.
Yeah.
You like people coming in and out.
Yeah.
So I think we got $1,300 each. So that's 20. So it's like over 5,000 in fines.
Right.
And I think it would have been worse. But the timing. See, I should have been closed by, I think, the new year. I thought they were going to close me.
Right.
They were threatening. They were like, if you don't get on board, we're going to do something.
Right.
And I was waiting. I waited 6 months from when they put the Vax Pass in. So I was breaking the law, basically.
Right.
I don't know if it's a real law.
No.
I'm sure a lot of people say it's not a real law. But let's say I was breaking the law for 6 months.
Yeah.
So for 6 months, I had to come to work wondering, are there going to be police here when I get here? Are they going to have a lock on my door? Are they going to have a raid? I don't know. So after 6 months, it really gets to you.
Yeah.
I was a little, people probably heard me screaming in there, but the jig was up by then anyway. But it's government torture almost. Like, why don't you just shut me if just get it over with. But the New Year we had the trucker convoy, and I'd like to think I was part of the spark across the country to get rid of these ridiculous policies. Like, this was the time when they're like banning people on the planes and just all sorts of ridiculous, firing people and horrible things.
Well, even making the truckers be vaccinated when they're alone in the trucks.
Yeah. So the trucker thing kind of was building up steam, and it was freaking out the government, the cops around us too, and on the 402. So I found in the New Year, I was expecting to get raided, shut down.
Yeah.
And I had cops in other towns say to me, I'm shocked that they didn't shut you down. But what happened, I think, is because the trucker thing started growing, and especially around Lambton County, there was a presence here of the truckers, which I'm very proud of. The cops basically left me alone. I think whatever calls they got from the public, because the public health would call the cops to come get me. They didn't want to come there. They were afraid of me. I don't know. Because I give them trouble. They don't have a reason to be afraid of me, but when you don't follow the line, they don't like that. So I'm sure they called the cops, but the cops are like, we're busy with the truckers on the 402.
Yeah.
And the convoys, those riding things, what are they called when they go ride around with the flags around the city?
Oh, just mini convoys.
Mini convoys. Yeah. So the cops are busy watching all that.
Yeah.
So they left me alone. That's the only reason they left me alone.
Yeah.
But I had like a lot of stress about the fines, if they're one day going to come and get me.
Yeah.
And then, my rent went up and all that. So I had to make a decision. I was like, if I work hard for 3 years and everything goes according to plan, maybe I can catch up.
Yeah.
But I was already here 2 years. Like, I wasted almost 2 years of my life getting run around by these guys. So I had to make a choice, and my rent went up by 10%. I wanted to buy the building, but we didn't make any money for 2 years, so it's kind of hard to put a down payment on a building. So I made the decision my lease was almost up, so I made the decision, okay, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I've wasted too much time. And they're not going to leave me alone.
Right.
And I don't trust them to not interfere with my business in the future. And the next whatever comes up,
Right.
And to top it all off, and I'm sure a lot of other businesses are feeling this, which helped my decision, was they got rid of all the obvious mandates, like the mask mandate and all the mandates like the Vax Pass and But as soon as all that went away, and there's still a lot of mandates in place, too many, but then the inflation hit. So restaurants finally get out of the kind of the COVID routine. They're starting to get like a normal routine, and then they get hit with inflation, which is really hurting the restaurants and everybody else. So it's like weird. It's like I went 2 years of this, and now I got inflation. My prices are doubling left and right, staff, everything. So it's like I just think I was ahead of the curve. Like I don't think they want medium, small businesses to stay alive. Like if it isn't COVID, it's inflation,
right?
And who knows what's next. So I wish everybody luck, but they seem to be against small, medium businesses just based on what they did to us those years. If you look at McDonald's and Tim Hortons, their drive-thrus are busy the whole time.
Yeah.
Good for them, I guess.
Yeah. So do you think if you had abided by their rules, do you think you'd still exist today?
I think we might have squeezed by, but my integrity would have been pretty well shot. So I was like, how much is that worth? Like I had a chance to make a stand without, I was already screwed from, I think, the business. But the Vax Pass, it hit me so strong. Like I felt like so strong about that because the ramifications, like when you start needing a QR to go in any place, that's totally crazy.
Yeah. So
I couldn't go with it no matter what. So it wasn't really a question of if I follow rules, will I survive? I never thought like that.
Right.
I'm not really. I can't do it. If I can't do something, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's money doesn't come into the equation.
Right.
I probably could have, if I had people telling me, well, just pretend you're doing it, and they will leave you alone.
Yeah.
But Troy is a small town. I guarantee they would have bugged me. So if they're gonna bug me, I'd rather not hide it.
Right.
I'd rather be proud of it.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, I ain't following that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew I was going to be in a tough position when Doug Ford reversed his stance. I said, if a Vax Pass comes in, I'm screwed because I'm not going to follow it.
Yeah.
I said that. So
interesting.
that's the line I won't bend to, you know.
Yeah. So
I shouldn't have bent to the other stuff, but whatever, you know.
Yeah. So with the fines, where are you standing?
Oh, okay, the fines, yeah. From what I understand, like, I kind of removed myself from the process because I can't. It's so illegitimate and whatever. And
yeah,
I had the lawyers, the paralegals working on it. They didn't even need me. So from what I can understand is the whole legal system thinks they're a joke. They're just going through the motions.
Right.
And basically, they took care of it.
Yeah.
They just kind of wrangled to get rid of them. I didn't sign nothing. I didn't admit no guilt.
Yeah.
I had to pay a little fee to my paralegal, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I'm proud because I wasn't going to admit to guilt. Right. Or if I was going to, I wasn't going to admit to guilt. If they're going to convict me, whatever, they can convict me, but didn't have to come down to that.
Right.
But I think if there was no trucker movement, I would have been totally walked out of there and locked out. So it was weird, the timing. It was interesting times. But it's the damage is done. Like, I still have bad nightmares of it, you know.
Yeah. Well, no,
because you feel so powerless. You feel so abandoned by, you want to contribute to this society. I love Ontario, but now, it's very ugly the way it looks. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And the same guys are still in charge.
It's true. So what would you say your message is to people watching that have similar battles that you've been, well, I guess you say your legal battles are kind of murky in a sense, but a lot of people have lost faith in the legal system and they don't think wins are coming. But I've heard the opposite. Matt Olson and Carla, and Matt seems to be optimistic that there are good lawyers and paralegals making right decisions and getting to right decisions, I should say.
Yeah.
So what's your perspective there?
I think the good news from what I heard is there's not a lot of enthusiasm in the legal community, like prosecution side, to really go after this stuff. I think during, like, now it's kind of past, but during the time, the attitude from what I got is the prosecutors because the prosecutors and the lawyers, they all talk.
Yeah.
And they probably thought it was stupid, but they had to do it.
Right.
It's like going through the motion. And there might have been like a high profile case like that barbecue guy. I can't even remember his name, but
yeah, I know what you're trying.
I think he even beat his stuff.
Did he?
I can't tell, but I'm just saying he was a high profile, so they made sure they're going to prosecute him. But the vast majority, if you contested it, I've heard they weren't very reluctant to prosecute, whatever.
Yeah. So it seems like, because you don't.
I guess what I'm saying is they don't even think take it serious.
Yeah.
The law, the people in charge of prosecuting, from what I understand, is they don't really take it serious. But they have to do it because their masters are telling them to do it. So a lot of times they're quietly just like, okay, let's get rid of this one, get rid of this one. From what I heard.
Right. Yeah. And it's probably.
And I believe it too, because it's like they probably didn't want to deal with it. It's just like the cops didn't want to go out to give the fines.
Yeah. Especially if it's not law. Like it's not law. You said that earlier. They're not enforcing laws. It's just these subjective rules for how they see fit. But that's good, Tom. So in your mind, how do we save Canada?
So I don't know. That's a good question.
What do we need to focus on?
We got to make sure the government doesn't try what they did to us again, because they'll probably try it again.
That's a good point.
So I think we got to learn from what we went through.
Yeah.
And don't give an inch, because we gave an inch each month and it turned into a mess. And I think we're still seeing the effects of it.
Right.
And we won't know the full effects for a while, you know?
Do you think a lot of people have woken up to the rights that they actually have?
I think more have.
Yeah.
Not enough, but more.
Not enough, but more, yeah.
So, slowly, we'll see. I'm hoping that the younger kids, you know, we slag the younger kids, but I hear a lot of younger kids are really into the freedom.
Yeah.
And they're under a lot of pressure because of the woke stuff in the school.
Yeah.
But that'll be our saving grace, is if that generation is not, if they, look, we never asked them really what they felt. You might want to get some young kids, but
it's a good idea.
I heard a lot of them are really into the freedom, like, message.
Yeah.
More and more. So that's probably our best hope.
Yeah.
They don't care about me and you. Like, we're old.
Yeah.
That's why I think, like, if I was a younger guy, they might have went after me more. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, right on, Tom. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
This is this Pizza World on Mitten and George. Great pizza, and in fact, you on Series for Sarnia, you ranked number 2 on Brooks Pizza. I don't forget what he calls it. Pizza Challenge.
Yeah, we're always trying to get better too. I've been a little rusty, so each day I try to get better.
Good. It's so good.
It's kind of like a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Take care.
No problem.
Godspeed.
Nice talking to you.